So the handout you received from me was your textbook. You already have your skills practice. I gave you the study guide for the chapter. Do you remember what is at the end of your textbook? Anybody? The end of each chapter? A summary. It's a really good summary in this chapter. So if you don't use your textbook for a lot, I would definitely pull out the summary and keep it with like your study guide and all that, because it references everything we're doing. So just like any other chapter, and I apologize for all the coughing ahead of time. Just like in every other chapter, everything's going to build. Today's really, really easy. But learn today's. If you go home, do tonight's, then it's nice and easy, and then we're just going to build. If you wait until next week or the day before the test, then there's too many pieces to put together. And we're going to have this amazing semester. We want to have these really good grades, so you get to exempt my second semester exam. Okay? So your assignment is that you are doing 1 to 24 all. Most of the questions take seconds to do. I mean, you should be working through it like that. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about inverse of a function. We're going to be talking about something called invertible, which we'll be able to tell a couple different ways, and then something called a horizontal line test, which is a relative to the vertical line test. Do you remember the vertical line test for functions to tell if something was a function? So down here, just a quick little tidbit. We'll be working with power functions. So do you see how it says x to the n power? That's your exponent. And then for an inverse, every ordered pair you know is an xy, or an x comma f of x. The inverse is taking your x and your y and reversing it. Okay? So I'd look at my new ordered pair, yx. That's going to work whether it's an ordered pair. That's going to work in the next section with an equation. That's going to work today with a chart, with a table. Okay? So all these things will help us deal with the inverse. The way to write an inverse is this. Do you see that -1 exponent? That's yelling inverse. So just like when you text somebody, you don't usually write out complete sentences or complete words. You use different symbols for it. F -1 power x is saying inverse of the given. Okay, without having to write that. So I could give you a question on a test and say, find f of -1 of x. That's it. And so I'm telling you in math symbolism, find the inverse. Okay, that doesn't mean take a given equation and flip it. It's not saying to do that. It's saying find the inverse. Okay, so wherever you need to store that, please store that. Horizontal line test, like I said, is a relative of the vertical line test. So back in Algebra 1, to tell if something was a function, like your basic parabola. So here's my standard parabola. So a parabola that opens up or down, you know, is a function. Because if you dropped a vertical line, every x value would be unique. Okay? What if I did a parabola like this? Do you think this would pass the vertical line test? Yes or no? No. Because if I dropped a vertical line, then it would fail it. Okay? Now, and so let's show them what we just did up here. So we started and we said, yes, it was. And then we did it sideways and we said, not a function. Okay? So the horizontal line test says, instead of dropping a vertical line through your given, let's draw a horizontal line through the given. So if I drew a horizontal line through my given, will it have the same y value duplicated? Yes or no? Yeah, it would. Okay? So that's going to help us in a sec with invertible. That's going to tell me that it's not invertible. It's like doing 2 steps in one without having to go through the extra process. Okay? Same thing. Okay. So in your textbook, in your skills practice, I don't make you fill in definitions, but I need to make sure you have the concepts. So this is the very beginning of your skills practice. If you don't have it with you, then just take some good notes so that you have it. So the given here says inverse of a function. The inverse of a function is a set of all ordered pairs, y comma x, or if you prefer, f of x comma x. Then we're going to talk about the picture because that's really, really important. So I need everybody on board with this because it's a fresh start for everybody. And not that I want you to do it now, but when you're home later, or at your locker during lunch, whatever, you can get rid of all your old stuff. I don't need it. And then the only reason you might need the whole first part of the year is if you end up having to take my exam. It is cumulative. Okay, the county writes it and it is cumulative. But other than that, I don't need anything chapters 1 through 8. Okay? Now, I want to look at the picture. So, anybody still writing this? Yeah. Okay, so look at my parabola. Everybody here with me. Now, they say to do the transformation, to check this out, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my parabola to do its inverse, and I'm going to first rotate it 90 degrees clockwise. So here's the given, and I'm rotating it 90 degrees. Are you still with me? Okay, but then there's a part 2, and I typed it in for you. Then I need to reflect it across the x-axis. So look where the blue and the green is right now. And when I reflect it, it looks like that. Okay, so you might go, well, what's the big deal? It still looks like a parabola on its side. But remember, I'm not just doing this with a second degree. I'm doing this rule with every degree. X to the 3, X to the 7, X to the 22, X to the 101. So every time you want to take a picture and find its inverse, you are going to take the given, rotate it 90 degrees, and rotate it across the x-axis. You have the steps. Okay, so here's the given. Tell me what to do first. Okay, and reflect it. Awesome. Everybody good? Okay. And so there's by picture, there's by words. So if you were helping somebody or you need to remember what to do. Now, in order to be invertible, you have to pass both the vertical and horizontal line test, or you have to look and see if the given is a function and if the inverse is a function. If they're both functions, then it's said to be invertible. Okay? So what I wrote up here for invertible function is if the inverse of a function is also a function, then f is an invertible function. Okay? So the given already has to be. So if you're not starting with a function, then it's already not going to be invertible. Okay? So if the given is a function, so look at my hands, is that a function? Yes. Okay? So far I'm starting with the function. And then if I go and do the horizontal line test, if I leap right into that, the horizontal line test would say take a horizontal line across there. Is that going to be, look at that. Is that going to pass the horizontal line test? No. So is it invertible? No. Okay? It has to pass both the tests to be invertible. So as soon as you say no to something, if you don't like that, then you first do your given, like we did with the parabola. Then you rotate it 90 degrees and reflect it, and look and see if your new value is a function. If you can say yes to both, it's invertible. As soon as you say no to one of the parts, it's not. We talked already about the horizontal line test. Okay, here is 2 examples. Okay, this is right from your homework. One of these is invertible, and one of these is not. Which one is invertible? 15 is. Awesome. Everybody see why? Okay, so if I looked at 15 and I go back to end behavior from last semester, would you agree it's an odd power, so it looks like this? Okay, so odd degree, odd power functions, and we just said for this one, yes, it's going to be invertible. I'm going to show you in a sec with a picture. This one right here, when I rotated it 90 degrees and reflected it, what was going to happen? It's going to look like a parabola on its side, and we know that that's not going to be a function. That's why that's not invertible. Is 14 even or odd? Power. Even. So that one was not invertible. 15 was odd power, invertible. You see how I'm coming up with my own rules with this? Okay, so let's take a look at. Okay, so here, So the first year we did this, we had everybody cut everything out. I'm over that. You've got these right here, the pipe cleaners. So instead of spending an hour cutting things out, I am going to assign in your group, there's 3 pipe cleaners there, and we're going to be working with f of x, v of x, and s of x. And what I want to do is I want to see what the inverse looks like. So let me show you. So within your little group right now, do you see how the shape of f of x, so f of x is x to the 4. It doesn't even matter so much x to the whatever because I gave you the picture. V of x is x to the 5. Can you see the odd degree? And then s of x is x to the 6. So I want, in your group, I want you to split them up. And if you're a group of 2 because somebody's absent, one of you do an even, one do an odd. And I want you to turn it around so you can figure out what the inverse is going to look like. Go. Just the highlighted ones. Yeah, just 3 of them. It's enough to prove the point. And it takes seconds, but hopefully it'll stick in your mind of what you did with it and always be able to do it. Okay, so I'm going to start with the greenish one, the lime one, which was the x to the 5, because we haven't really touched on the odd one yet. So did anybody start making the odd swiggle to start off with? Who was the odd person in one of the groups? Anybody want to volunteer? Okay. So you started like that, okay. And can you show me what you did first? Okay. So we rotated it. So you started like this, and you said you rotated it 90 degrees. Okay, perfect. Can everybody see? And then? Perfect. And then he flipped it, and that's why I made it two-tone, so you could see like the nice difference. And that's my new inverse. Is everybody good with that? Anybody not good? Okay. Anybody brave want to do one of the even-powered ones? The yellow or the aqua? Anybody? Anybody? Mary Jo. So you did the green one. Okay. Okay. Thanks, Trey. Okay. Perfect. So you started with the basic shape, and you rotated it 90 degrees, and you reflected it again. I put together the 2 colors because I realized if I didn't, you wouldn't be able to see the difference of the top and the bottom of the arms. Very good. Okay. So which one of these is invertible? Give me a color. Green. Good. The green one was invertible. The odd degree one, the odd power one. Which one of those were not invertible? The bluish and the yellowish, okay? So our end result, without making you spend hours cutting and drawing and all that, gives you your final solutions, okay? Now, I wrote to you here on down below that this would be a great test question. So I could build a multiple choice question and say, which of the 6 power functions that you explored are invertible? So I could either just give you a bunch and you could list them out, or I could make something multiple choice where you would list, but then I would say and explain. So what usually happens on those parts where there's an and explain is you can narrow it down to a 50-50 chance just by knowing which is invertible, but then you have to understand why, okay? So with what we just did, which ones ended up being invertible? The ones with the even or the odd powers? Odd. Everybody agree with that? Okay? So my answer here said the function x, or c of x equals x cubed, v of x equals x to the 5. That group, they were all invertible. They were invertible because they were the odd-powered functions. So if I said, how come? That's why. So the odd-powered functions are invertible. The evens are not. And I know I keep saying the same thing over and over because I'm hoping you go home and go, oh, I've got it. She said it over and over again. The inverse of odd power functions are also functions. So if the given's a function and the inverse is a function, then it is invertible. Okay? Talked about that already, and I've talked about horizontal line test already. Okay, look up here. Nice, easy. This goes back to our basics from algebra that we've also already used. Determine whether or not the relation is a function. So nothing even fancy, not even the algebra 2 part yet. So for the line, I wrote the line was a function. It's also an x to the 1, it's odd power. So just a basic function. That means it passed the vertical line test. What about number 2? Is that a function? No, because it doesn't pass the vertical line test. So not a function. Everybody good? Everybody remembers what a function is from algebra days? Okay, everybody good? Okay. What if that shape had been a parabola opening upward? Would that have been a function? Yes, good. Okay. So now on 7 and 8, I like these. So on 7 and 8, they give me an equation. They want me to graph the inverse. So I know last year on my test, a couple people missed this because they graphed me the given, not the inverse. Well, you've already been tested on the given. Not only have you been tested on the given, I've given you this on even your graphing quizzes, okay? So I want to graph the inverse. So this is how easy it is. We're going to first make a table for the given. Haven't we graphed negative x cubed before? So here's x cubed. So here's negative x cubed. Everybody agree? With my arms, okay? So what I want to do is build a table using the reference points starting with the 0, 1, 2, negative 1, negative 2. And then I'm going to take my table, and guess what I'm going to do with my x and y values? Switch them, flip-flop them. Yeah. And then I'll have the inverse. So look below first, and then in my head I'm going to visualize what it's going to look like. So for negative x cubed, so I'm just going to take the given. This would be the work if I had to switch things around, but I'm not going there yet. We go there tomorrow. So for y equals negative x cubed, I use 0, 1, 2, negative 1, negative 2, and got the respective values. 1 cubed is 1, negated. 2 cubed is 8, negated, etc. Everybody good with my reference points? Okay. So then, to do the inverse, I'm taking my given table, and what did I say I was going to do again? Flip them. So instead, so 0, 0, you can't tell I changed it because they're the same. 1, negative 1 became negative 1, 1. 2, negative 8 became negative 8, 2. Can you see where I'm going? Okay. Once I have my new set of values, I didn't have to work very hard for that because I already knew how to build the given. So the new part was flip-flop them. Now I'm going to plot my new values. So I'm going to plot 0, 0, negative 1, 1, negative 8, 2, 1, negative 1, and 8, negative 2. So let me show you above. And that's what it would look like. Is that a surprise? Let's take our shape. So you started with, well, wasn't it negative x cubed? So I said it looked like this. So there's my lovely pipe cleaner, right? And I'm rotating it how many degrees? 90 degrees. So you want to rotate it 90 degrees, and then you're going to reflect it over the axis, okay? So if I can picture doing this, then I already kind of know going in what my picture should look like. Question for me. Can you see that if you forget to do your reflection, you're going to end up with the wrong graph? It didn't ask here, but can you tell me if this one was invertible? Yes, very good. Okay, so the other one is the graph of negative x squared. So isn't that just your parabola opening downward? We've done a zillion of those. So here is from the parent and your reference points, 0, 0, 1, negative 1, because the negate, 2 squared is 4, negate, negative 1 squared is 1, negate, negative 2 squared is 4, negate. Now from that, what did I do with my x and y values? Switch them, exactly. So picture what happened. We had our parabola that did this to start. Can you picture what my final answer is going to look like? Yes? Okay. Was that what you pictured? Very good. Is this one invertible? Awesome. Very good. Very good. Question, anybody? This is how hard today's lesson is. So it's a good day to come back and get back into the swing of things. We already did this one before. All I did was flip-flop 14, 15, where it is on the screen. Which one was invertible again, 14 or 15? 15, very good. Okay, without graphing, so now just with an equation, I can now look at equations and I can tell you whether or not the function is invertible. So one of these is and one of these is not. Which one of these is invertible, 19 or 21? 21, awesome. How come it's invertible? Odd. Oh, so good, so good. That's what you're working on today, okay? So practice and then we'll keep building. You guys did a great job. Remember to take your study guide with you. And then we keep building. You can see that on the front board, unless I get really sick and like can't get out enough sentences without coughing, that will be the schedule for the next 2 weeks, okay? So we are set. Great audience today.